All right. Hi, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to all to the session. Before we start, my name is Aditia. I'm with International Network of People Who Use Drugs. I'm a bit unwell today. I'm sorry if I'm a bit disoriented, and I just actually got out from hospital earlier today due to an overdose on what I also tried to basically kill myself again for I don't know how many times now. But yeah, I'm here. I'm happy to be here and very thankful for that. But yeah, this topic is a very interesting one because it's called peers politics and the power and the learning that we've got from our movement, drug users' rights movement. And we've seen lots of historical outcomes from our movement. And we will be hearing from wonderful presentation. Today we have, although we're still probably missing somebody, but still, back in 2006, this was historical, that we founded the network. We founded the network back home in Vancouver after the conference. And we also know that coming back from Vancouver, many of our friends also created similar movement, and now we're here to listen to their stories. I'm just going to be following the order based on the website. So that's Greg and Lily, please.
Thank you very much. Have you got a clicker for the slides, or I'll just cue the slides? You want us to stand up? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. And my name is Greg, and I work at the Alcohol, Tobacco and Other Drug Council of Tasmania, and we're the peak body for the alcohol and drug sector in the state.
And I'm Lil, and I'm a lived experience advocate. The Lived Experience Advocate Service was established by the ATDC. And this presentation includes photos of some of our other lived experience advocates. Joe, up there, would love to be here today, but she unfortunately is back home in Tassie.
And we'd like to acknowledge the Boon Wurrung and Wiradjuri Woi people of the Kulin Nation. I feel like we're in no danger of forgetting that at this conference, and how refreshing and wonderful that is for those of us living in this nation of many nations.
Can you change the slide? In case you don't know, Tasmania, Traga, is an island state that is separated from the mainland Australia by the Bass Strait. We have a population of about 570,000 people. We're home to many unique and endangered animals, and now including the only Liberal state government in Australia.
And we are also the only state and territory that do not have a legitimate, funded, independent organisation for people who use drugs.
So we are thrilled to be here today to present to you how we're going to try and change that. In October last year, the ATDC submitted our business case to the Tasmanian state government as its budget priority.
So I'd just like to say over the last 30 years, our sector hasn't been at the forefront of empowering Tasmanians who use drugs. In 2023, however, a compelling argument could be made that the past 3 years have seen a significant and positive investment that has socialised the sector and the broader community to the concept of embedding these voices at every level of our alcohol and other drug health services. This recent progress and cultural change are attributable to a collective determination, vision and investment. And here we have a few more of our advocates, and shout out to Kerry there, who I know is listening online.
Yeah, that's a great picture of me, Greg. Thank you. I can speak to my own experience as an advocate since 2021, and I've been involved in various high-level activities, including executive and project control groups, public speaking engagements, media and TV training, selection panels for recruiting clinical staff, and now most recently being part of a campaign committee run by people with lived experience. Even with all of that going for us, we still do not have a legitimate independent platform to operate from, and there is no collective voice for systemic advocacy in Tasmania.
We'd also like to acknowledge that over the past 2 decades, volunteer groups have attempted to gain support, but to date none have managed to secure the multi-year operational funding that would bring the stability to the establishment of this organisation. So it's with great pleasure to present the Time Is Now business case that you can see on our website, and this represents the most coordinated and concerted sector effort to securing funding to establish this organisation. We acknowledge and thank the many people who contributed to the content and refinement of this submission, and some of who are at this conference and listening online today.
So what do we know this organisation will do? It will, number 1, be the voice of authority. Number 2, it will have a unique membership. The proposed membership for this organisation will be a unique model in a national context, in the sense that it not only provides a platform for those with a lived or living experience of illicit drugs, but also for people with a lived or living experience of alcohol. Having a membership across this illicit divide is a vastly different foundation when compared with other similar organisations in Australia, whose mission originated in the HIV and AIDS epidemic. This has been a non-negotiable aspect for this business case. The Tasmanian government and the sector clearly see that the primary role and the value of this organisation will be to inform service design and delivery at alcohol and other drug treatment and support services. It is this pathway to establishment that has most influenced its unique aspect and led to its inclusion in the state government's reform agenda. We anticipate that this means there may naturally be significant diversity in the life experiences, politics and worldviews of its members. And it has been suggested that the shared principles and goals of Harm Reduction International will provide common ground between all of our members.
This organisation will also have clarity about the level of and scope of its activities, so it will fit within the array of existing services and ensuring the risks of crossover and duplication are very low. It will also inherit and take management of the Lived Experience Advocate service. This service, which is essentially a consumer representation service, has been established and is currently hosted by the ATDC, and it will provide the organisation with a program that is tested, proven and valued across the sector. And finally, it will start under the auspice of the ATDC. This business case also puts forward an expanded list of 8 expectations that provide an organisational profile and a starting point for future discussions for the foundational members.
Number 1, it will be self-determining for peers by peers. It will advocate for the principles and goals of harm reduction as per the Harm Reduction International guidelines. 3, it will promote social justice and human rights issues, and this is likely to include the right of self-determined healthcare and a focus on eliminating stigma and discrimination. And 4, we'll work with organisations to improve health and support services for people who have used or use drugs and alcohol in Tasmania. This includes working to the aims of the overarching government reforms to facilitate the participation of lived and living experience voices at all levels of organisations to improve service design and delivery.
And here we have Ryan, another one of our lived experience advocates, without a guitar lead, we just noticed, but good on you, Ryan. I'm sorry about that, mate. This organisation will also work with existing service organisations to provide systemic advocacy to raise awareness and reduce the transmission of bloodborne viruses. So this work is likely to include trying to reduce stigma and discrimination associated with injecting drugs. And I just met Emma on the way in from Quiver, and a very helpful conversation late last year with Emma really solidified that this organisation needs to be an advocacy-based organisation to begin with rather than having a service arm. So thank you, Emma, and acknowledge that very valuable contribution to this business case. It will also work to have a diversity of members and perspectives. This includes geographical representation, age, gender, ethnicity, and first language. Also, it will be a partner in research. So it will be the primary conduit between the grassroots communities and academic research opportunities, including the IDRS, the EDRS, postgrad research projects and international studies. And finally, we'll try to form alliances domestically, regionally and internationally.
And this final point is why we are here today at this conference. By forming alliances beyond our small community, our organisation can access knowledge, expertise and funding opportunities that might otherwise be unavailable. We need you. So please come and find us in the coming days and connect with us.
All right, before we take some questions, we will address some tensions with this proposed model of organisation. So firstly, the disparity of experiences, stigma, discrimination, health and legal outcomes for people using currently illicit drugs is undisputably and vastly different to people using alcohol. So how will this work among the membership of this organisation? Secondly, will this aspect limit the ability of this organisation to have full membership to the national peak body or connect with international networks? And finally, because there is no current legitimate platform or united voice for people, the ATDC, for whom I work, could be understood to be holding the power in the formation of this organisation. I'm optimistic that we do now have a grassroots community in Tasmania. They are networked, energetic, passionate and ready to be the foundational members of this organisation. It is our challenge to support this group toward self-determined incorporation. It is these aspects and more that we are still pondering and reconciling, and we look forward to listening and learning from many of you in the coming days. So that concludes our formal presentation, and we're happy to take some questions from the floor.
Probably. Thank you so much. It was a very wonderful presentation. Always love hearing different stories from different people, and we often forget that these stories come from people. They're not just names, but they are people, human being, and we all have different stories. So if anybody would like to ask some questions, or we can also put the questions at the end after everybody presented, or if there's an immediate burning question right now. Yes.
So,
could you speak to the mic, please, because it's also streamed.
thank you so much. I'm Mariah. I'm from upstate New York in the U.S. I oversee a team of peer advocates in my work. And I'm just interested a little bit, you talked about the membership including illicit substances, and my peer team is actually made up of both experiences. Can you just, if you can, talk a little bit about that tension, like what the concerns might be, / how you see it moving forward?
I think on one side we see it as completely inclusive and means that there's no gatekeeping, and I think it's come out of the size of Tasmania and the population. We are on the positive side looking at the common ground between the potential members. So currently alcohol and other drugs are all treated in the same place in Tasmania among the various services. So there is that harmonising experience there. Also, we have a lot of polydrug users whose primary substance might be alcohol. So there is that as well. I think that's the question mark for us. So we're not quite sure how it's going to work. I might just call on Lily because we are running a kind of a pilot campaign for who we kind of see are the clear foundational members at the moment, and Lily's a part of that group, and there is some of those tensions perhaps. So I might just let Lily talk about how decisions are starting to be made.
Yeah, I mean, from my own experience, I feel like because we're such a small community, we do actually embrace each other and embrace that we all are facing issues with addiction. It's not, it's not substance, it's the issue of addiction for many of us. And so, as a small community, we do embrace each other's differences and we're inclusive at the same time. It's really important that we make a point of acknowledging and accepting that people who use illicit drugs do have vastly different challenges to people using alcohol. So I think, just acknowledging and accepting and understanding each other is where we're at.
Thank you. Right. Just to be worth time, we still have two more presentations. So I guess we'll, if somebody else have questions, hopefully that we'll have enough time at the end. But thank you again, Greg and Lily.
Thank you very much.
And for our next presentation, we have Bea, who has been working a lot in the youth area as well as for her work on crisis, and would really love to hear her presentation on the work of Harm Reduction Victoria.
Hi everyone, can you hear me okay? Awesome. I'm a bit short, so sometimes these things aren't really designed very well for me. It's okay? Awesome, thank you. I just wanted to thank you all for coming, and also wanted to acknowledge that we are on Kulin Nations, and I pay my respect to elders past and present. What am I actually talking to you about today? So I'm going to introduce the organisation that I work for, and talk briefly about some interest in peer-led education. Who is interested in this kind of education and training? What our capacity is to actually be able to deliver this kind of education or respond to these types of inquiries, and what may be the barriers to do so, and just wrapping it up. So can I just have a show of hands in the room who knows of the organisation Harm Reduction Victoria? Okay, cool. So a lot of you do know who we are, so I won't bang on about it. We are Victoria's drug user organisation, by drug users for drug users. It started up as a grassroots movement back in the 80s following the HIV epidemic, and we successfully got funded by the state government, originally called VivAIDS. We are now Harm Reduction Victoria, and we are part of Australia's drug using organisations. So some of the programs that Harm Reduction Victoria has, It's got a few different programs. This isn't an exhaustive list of everything we do, but these are the main programs. So we do a lot of advocacy, a lot of education, training, support, and that's often divided into separate programs. So we've got the health promotion team. So with the health promotion team, their main focus is on bloodborne virus prevention and training. They do a lot of Hep C and Hep B trainings. They also link in with different treatment options and try to just get a lot more community education around these topics, debunking myths and trying to primarily reduce stigma towards people who use drugs and potentially issues that may have been a result of drugs, such as having something like hepatitis B. They also do a lot of cool trainings. They do offer the lots of overdose education trainings, specifically around opioid use and naloxone training. Fuse is a slightly newer initiative, and this program offers support, mentoring and peer supervision to harm reduction peer workers working in designated roles, and also those who are in roles that they're not out as someone with lived experience as well. And this is a really exciting program because while I think we're starting to get to a point where having roles with people with a lived experience and living experience are becoming increasingly common, there's still a lot of barriers for those people. Even if you are in a role where you're allowed to be out at work, there may be some stigma and discrimination even within that organisation, even within your team. There's often stories of people who are in a peer role, often saying that they're not as respected as other people in their team, things like that. And so being able to get supervision and support for people in these roles is really important. And I'm really excited that Nadia's team is also offering a few different trainings, such as cultural safety for people who use drugs. DanceWise. So DanceWise provides peer support and education, primarily at electronic dance parties, so at festivals, sometimes at other party settings such as club nights that people will have sex on premises. We also do some welfare support with school leavers when they have their sort of party week at the end of year 12, so the end of the last year of high school in Australia, or in Victoria. And that's a really cool program. It's actually majority is volunteers, and they're people who party themselves, going out to these parties and supporting people. They'll have front of house where they just provide general education. They might talk about drug combinations. They might talk about things like roadside testing, and then there'll also be a chill space where people who may be experiencing undesirable or unexpected effects of alcohol or other drugs, or maybe just not having a good time, can have a quiet space away from the music, away from the party. They can have a cry, they can have some water, a warm blanket, someone to talk to. And then we also have PAMS. And PAMS is a hotline across Victoria, and it's for clients of pharmacotherapy and assists with issues regarding prescribers and pharmacies. So perhaps somebody may not be able to pay for their methadone that week. They may be able to get some support on a payment plan or something like that, or if their prescriber is going on leave or retiring, helping try to find that person someone else to prescribe them their pharmacotherapy. So who am I? As was spoken about, I've worked at Harm Reduction Victoria for the past 4 years. I was previously working as the coordinator of the DanceWise program, and I've currently been on secondment working for the PAMS team doing a data project. And my background is in youth work, AOD, crisis intervention and volunteer coordination. So looking at interest in peer education. So for Harm Reduction Victoria, each of the programs that I've just briefly spoken about, within those programs, it is expected that each of them do deliver certain trainings and workshops. However, we do often get inquiries about different trainings or workshops that we could deliver, which are outside of these. So, we generally get an email, perhaps to our admin team, and there'll be requests for PR-based, so lived or living experience people who use drugs, for those people to facilitate a workshop or a seminar, usually on some sort of drug education, health promotion, and professional development trainings. And so we have to kind of figure out which ones are appropriate for us to take on, which ones we have the capacity to. And who has reached out. So of the kind of inquiries that we can accept, but we're currently not funded for, so we don't actually have specific funding allocation for these types of requests. We're getting contact from institutions such as high schools, some community education charities, AOD services, and also just individuals. So in the past year, we've received approximately 10 training and consultation requests, which are outside of any of our program-specific core work. And so we've agreed for ones that we are capable of taking on, which program might be able to deliver that kind of training and engage with these requests. And so that will be approved by our executive officer and may have to go to our board as well, depending on what type of relationship and what kind of workshop they may be requesting. So some of the examples would be we've had 2 external training requests from AOD community services organisations and have since started delivering ongoing trainings with one of these services. We've also had an external request from a health promotion charity to deliver ongoing education and support to students at 2 different high schools in Melbourne, which again have asked us to continue to deliver this training and support annually. And we've also received 2 different external training requests from different state government departments to that of which we're funded by. So what are some of the barriers outside of funding and resource limitations is also just literally stigma. Like, I don't want to sort of go on about this because I feel like you'll get this kind of dialogue in a lot of other spaces over the course of this week. But yeah, I guess what I do want to talk about is that I do just have to drum down that stigma and discrimination is still impacting our ability to do this kind of work, because while we are seeing an increase in requests for this type of training, we're also finding that there is definitely a difference between how much, say, if it is a fee-for-service type workshop, we're seeing that the price that people may expect will be lower than that of a service that does not have out workers or a peer-based workforce, even though these organisations are coming directly to us and specifically to us. And so we're seeing this as quite, a bit of a strange dynamic in that it shows that people want to see what we have to say, appreciate our education, but maybe don't quite respect it to the same level as certain other organisations or institutions. And also we're having pushback where, say, someone who's reached out from an organisation, they've got approval to reach out to our organisation for us to deliver their workshop, and then there might be some feedback from other colleagues within that organisation, and then it will then come back later that we may have to reassess what type of information we provide. We might have to make it less, what I would say, harm reduction based and more of a treatment based educational workshop. And this is another ongoing issue that we keep seeing. And so trying to manage, because we are on one hand really excited about perhaps encouraging more requests for external trainings. We're also finding these barriers are quite difficult to navigate, and until we have specific funding allocated for this type of work, we're going to continue to see these kind of issues come up. So the last slide I had has not saved what I wrote, so I'm just going to leave this one up. So while institutions such as schools and recovery-based drug and alcohol services have historically viewed peer education as less appropriate or valuable than non-peer-based consulting services, the emerging interest, specifically in lived and living workforce facilitated education, shows that there is a need to cultivate the implementation and ongoing development of peer-based educational models. As lived and living experience workers are beginning to be recognised and respected for their articulate, objective, non-judgmental dialogue around drug education, organisations such as Harm Reduction Victoria and other peer-based organisations need to be adequately resourced to deliver this core area of education to the community. The systemic barriers regarding engagement in non-funded activities, regardless of support from funding bodies, means the peer workforce is unable to respond effectively to the emerging demand for peer-led drug education and professional development opportunities unless government policy around this work is addressed, and stigma within the community is also hopefully eradicated. Thanks.
Thank you so much, P. And it's really sad to see the reality that a lot of organizations and interventions from drug user-led are not being funded, but yet we still continue what we do, and that's really the true power of our movement. Thank you so much, P, for sharing that. And we have one Traga from Indonesia, who I know really well. I will present you about the resurrection of the network in Indonesia.
Hi everyone, my name is Traga Duvan Baros. I'm from Indonesia. I work is Indonesia Network People Who Use Drugs. I'm as an advocacy officer. My theme is the resurrection of Indonesia Network People Who Use Drugs through the participation of peer group as the community-led response. Okay. This is the background. PKNI is Indonesia Network People Who Use Drugs. We are drug user network who have been marginalized and discriminated against drugs. The issue of fraud in the previous year leadership became an obstacle to continue the struggle of the drug user community. The voice of the organization was divided. Action point. extraordinary Congress conducted in May 2022 by online mechanism. 20 members of constituent invited. This is the process for Congress by online mechanism. Yeah. The result of the extraordinary Congress were a chair as a chairman of the steering committee was 1. Formation of 2022 and 2026 VKNI management structure. 2. The election of the national coordinator Mr. Muhammad Endi Mulia Putra for the year of 2022 for 2026 by acclamation mechanism.
Right. And community LED response. The participant of member is a key strength in restoring PKNI's strengths and community lead response. It's time to rebuild trust because drug user organization must be led by the drug user community itself, not by party who have interest. But we already meet with the Parliament in Indonesia to talk about it and
revision narcotic law.
Oh yeah, and we get the revision of the narcotic law in Indonesia to
Komisi 3 DPR, Komisi 3 DPR.
Oh yeah, and we met with the Commission 3 of Parliament in Indonesia to talk about the change of the regulation. Yeah. And
ke Lembaga Perlindungan Saksi dan Korban.
Oh, and
kekerasan terhadap drug user.
Community of the victim and the
MOU dengan Lembaga Perlindungan Saksi.
And we made MOU for the protect of the community and
kekerasan dari pihak kepolisian.
With the police also. So we
Kekerasan terutama soal kasus kekerasan yang menimpa drug user.
and we just focus for the torture and the extortion of the drugs user in Indonesia.
Influence of funding request, global fund.
And we get influence from the global fund.
Global fund funding request.
Global fund funding request.
Waktu procurement jarum suntik.
For the needles and
dari 25 jarum per tahun per orang menjadi 350 jarum per orang per tahun.
Alright, we get now we get up from the 25 needle for one person. Now we got 3,000 350 needles for one person for year. Yes, and
17 tahun PKNI.
And we already running that more than 70 years now, but we still struggling with them because it's a lot.
Peningkatan kapasitas terhadap polisi yang
Yes, for the up the capacity and policy.
Kebenaran salah satu pematerinya di Taslim sendiri.
Yeah, and one of the materi of
him di Taslim. This is dari Taslim membawa materi.
Oh, this is Mr. Taslim bring the materi. Yes.
Okay, ini sama. And this is action.
Oh yeah, this is our action in Car Free Day in Jakarta.
Di mana tidak ada boleh organisasi satupun.
In this case, no more organization can do it, but this organization PKNI try to
mendukung salah satu aksi.
Yeah, underground for the action for the socialize
ganja terhadap waktu itu.
Ganja
pengobatan
for the medical also. So we a bit struggling in Indonesia, especially with the government, but
Okay.
I'm sorry with my English, with my broken English, but I try to the best with you guys, and it's proud of me to being here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, and I found it very inspiring, especially regardless of what language you're using. It's really the voice that we need to hear, and most often those voices are not there because our seats are taken by somebody else, that we are represented by somebody who's not drug users, and that's really something that we are fighting every day and day on, whether it's for funding, whether it's for voices or for seats. But, so we have, last but not least, our friend of us from the Thailand Drug User Network, Voravat, would like to present something. Please to take the floor.
So, good evening, everyone. So, this is my first time, and our organization first time internationally. So, please be kind when you ask a question. So, in the script I said greeting. So, hello again, I'm Voravat Rugvong, and I'm feeling honored to be representing the Thai Input, Thai network of people who use drugs, and I am Vice Chairperson of Thai Input, and what I'm going to present today is the model that we demonstrate and try in our organization, as you see in the slide. Transparency and accountability cause unity, solidarity within our network. So, next, okay. So here's our key objective. To begin with, our organization is very new. It's just founded like 3 to 4 years ago, and we are trying to strengthen our alliance and create solidarity within the organization, within the network, to be the voice of the fellow of drug users in Thailand. That's our objective, who we want to be. Here's our background. So, as we see that PUT are people, right? And people they are diverse. They have diversity, and they have their own various issues. Like some have encountered like law violation by the law enforcement by himself. Some face others, and there was no collection of systematically collection of the problems and prioritize. Okay. And thank you. Whose problem are not reflect with strong unity. So here's our background. Before us, there was no safe space to speak up, no existing mechanism or the norm that empower a dialogue that a drug user can feel safe, feel relaxed, and be comfortable in the comfortable atmosphere enough to express themselves based on equality. Everyone is the member at equal level. Also, the last one is there was lack of actively and meaningful participation that truly reflect their needs and wants. Okay. So here's our methodology. We created 2 levels of mechanism in running the organization. The formal one is the Constitution that establishes as the main rules and guidelines for talent push management that need to be abided. And the next one, the second level, is the informal one. We develop the co-creating the norm towards solidarity. So to enhance harmony in working atmosphere. And let me explain more in details with the example what we have achieved, have done. And this methodologies aims towards correctness, transparency, and verifiable, right? Verifiable for the network management and the atmosphere for unity, to be a same family, to provide support and still respect to each other based on equality again. Okay, this is the first one. As you see on the screen, I summarized from the section 6 from our constitution that said that the representative must be elected from regional assembly and has the term of 2 years and cannot be in the position more than two consecutive terms. So more people and more new generation can come into working and learning. Okay, and in details, it's like Thailand in the map. Thailand are divided into 5 geological zones, and each zone they gather with in the region and vote for 2 representatives, and then we have the Constitution also designs and has framed how an EB is established and activated, and also assign the accountability at the same time. So after we have 10 representatives, they can become the executive boss once the member authorize them in the National Assembly. And then the first duty is to elect a chairperson within the board. And the chairperson is also assigned as a EB for NAPUT, who we are members, except he authorized other. These are all written down in the Constitution that we, okay. And the more informal one is the norm towards solidarity. So this is this is like for more abstract, but based on our understanding that in Thailand, drug users are not very well accepted, and they can lack of confidence. So we create a norm to praise and cheer up when they share their thought, and we also value our members' feeling of being a part of network and being heard and being respected, as everyone has dignity for themselves. And also the sense of belonging, hospitality, the warmth, acceptance, and our foundations. And these are what we trying to do all the time in every activity we do. Like example, if it comes to a disagreement in a meeting, the chairperson who is well accepted and respected, will facilitate and find the middle ground or ask for agreement to pause the agenda and reschedule the agenda again. Sorry. Yes, I paused so you can read. So here's our what we think are our future challenges. We still need to elevate the knowledge of from EB so they can cascade this knowledge. So we have a new code, new drug law code, and we are in the process of extracting the core digest the law. Yes, thank you. Digest the law that affecting drug user life and make sure that these EB are able to pass along the knowledge they get. And we still have to increase the number of members, and review and update drug trends, and including possible consequence affecting people who use drug. And we have an idea about convey a regular satisfaction survey among people who use drug, who have experience to receive the harm reduction kit, treatment, anything that relating to health, related to drug use from both government and non-government agency, to develop, to give information of how they think, to feedback. And the last one is to develop a campaign for advocacy and strategy and action plan for better and improving service for people who use drug. And the acknowledgement, this attempt, this what we do, we have to acknowledge Thai Input Advisory Board Committee and NAPUT, who support us, and Ozone Foundation Thailand, whose team are there. Thank you so much that you help create us with your voluntary flesh and blood. Thank you very much. Thank you for having you guys. Okay, crap. So should I go down now? Yes. Okay.
Something to say?
Anyone? Any unclear? Oh, can I don't know if this is can do or not. We bought 50 T-shirts like this with us to do we very new, and we are not rich. don't have much money. So we do the fundraising by selling T-shirts.
I don't see why not. I mean, you can always do it outside the room, so or even like, I'm not sure. You can ask the organizer whether it's possible or not, but I don't see why not. I mean, it's for our movement, right?
Yes, thank you.
But thank you so much. If you, we can have question and answer now.
So maybe HR Victoria is kind enough, so you can put. I don't know. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. We are ahead of time. We still have 30 minutes technically, but if somebody has questions to ask to our wonderful presenters, yes, please. Please speak to the mic and say your name and where you're from. Thank you.
I'm just going to yell. Thank you so much. I was just curious about the timing of you resurrecting the Indonesian one, but the Thai input as well around the decriminalisation of marijuana in Thailand. Were you guys part of that?
Yeah.
Where cannabis has recently been decriminalised in Thailand. Were you part of that process?
Were you part of it?
Did you help? Did your advocacy work towards that? Is that a yes? Huh. That's amazing.
Any other questions? If there are no questions, then I would like to close this session by quoting the Vancouver Declaration, that we are people from around the world who use drugs. We are people who have been marginalized and discriminated against. We've been killed, we've been harmed unnecessarily, we've been put in jail, we've been depicted as evil, we've been stereotyped as dangerous and disposable. But now it is time to raise our voices as citizens, establish our rights, and reclaim the right to be our own spokesperson, striving for self-representation and self-empowerment. Thank you very much.